I didn't realize how small my life had gotten until the night I found myself whispering in my own kitchen, afraid he'd hear me opening a drawer in my house. That was the moment something inside me finally clicked, quietly but firmly, like a lock turning the other way. I'm a grocery store cashier in a small town. Nothing fancy, but I've always liked the routine. I rent a little one-bedroom duplex with creaky floors and a porch that sags after it rains. When my boyfriend, Mark, moved in, I honestly thought it would make things easier. Two people splitting rent, shared meals, someone else to drink coffee with in the morning. It felt like a grown-up step. At first, it was fine. He'd pick up takeout sometimes, wash the dishes when I worked late, talk about how he wanted to build a future with me. He worked odd jobs, landscaping one week, helping his cousin's moving company the next. Money came unpredictably, but he always made it sound temporary, like things were about to turn around. Then the small things started. He'd say stuff like, "You're better with numbers than me. Why don't you handle the bills?" It sounded harmless, even flattering, like he trusted me. But then he'd add, "Just use your card for now. I'll pay you back Friday." Except Friday came and went quietly. Then the next one. Then the one after that. When I'd mention it gently, he'd sigh like I was nagging him. "We're a team," he'd say. "Why are you nickel and diming me? It's not attractive." That line stuck with me. Not attractive. Like being responsible made me some kind of burden. Groceries became our groceries, but he ate twice as much as I did. The electric bill doubled after he started blasting the TV late into the night. Laundry detergent vanished faster. My paycheck stretched thinner every month, but he always had money for beer or new sneakers he found on sale. The worst part wasn't even the money. It was how he made me feel weird for noticing. If I got stressed, he'd tell me I was overreacting. If I suggested he pick up more hours, he'd accuse me of acting like his mom. If I asked about the job applications he claimed he was sending out, he'd get moody and quiet for hours, forcing me to tiptoe around him. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like balancing on eggshells. One afternoon, I came home from a long shift to find him sitting on the couch, surrounded by takeout containers, the TV blaring some reality show. My laptop, my only real expensive item, was open beside him. He said he borrowed it to apply for work, but when I checked the browser history later, there wasn't a single job site, just YouTube, sports clips, and a forum about sneakers. That was the first time I felt something twist in my stomach. The second time was worse. I checked my bank app after payday and saw a $200 withdrawal. Cash. I never withdraw cash. When I asked him about it, quietly, carefully, he didn't deny it. He just shrugged. "We needed stuff. Don't make it a thing." But it was a thing. It was my rent money, my bills, my life slipping out of my hands without even the courtesy of a lie. That night, lying in bed while he snored beside me, I stared at the ceiling and listened to the house groan around us. And for the first time, I wasn't scared of upsetting him. I was scared of staying exactly where I was. And that's when I knew I wasn't going to let this continue. Not one more month, not one more missing dollar, not one more shrug. I didn't know what the plan was yet, but I knew it had to start now. I didn't have some dramatic breaking point. It wasn't a fight or a threat or anything loud. It was quieter than that, just a slow realization that every part of my life had bent itself around Mark's comfort, while mine had become something I barely recognized. The next paycheck disappeared faster than usual. He'd stopped pretending he'd pay me back. Instead, he started calling anything I questioned shared expenses, even when they weren't. One morning, I checked my account and saw a string of small charges from a gas station near his friend's house. Snacks, cigarettes, beer. I don't even smoke. When I asked him why he used my card, he said, "You were asleep, and I didn't feel like waking you for your PIN." Like he was doing me a favor. He began treating the apartment like he was the one paying the bills, leaving messes everywhere, tossing empty bottles under the coffee table, letting dishes pile until the sink smelled sour. If I brought it up, he'd roll his eyes and say, "You're home earlier. Why can't you handle it?" And slowly, I started to feel smaller, like I was shrinking around him. The emotional digs came next. Little comments delivered casually, like he was talking about the weather. "You're too sensitive. You need to relax. You'd fall apart without me." It didn't sound like a joke. The day things shifted for good was a Sunday afternoon. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sorting bills, trying to figure out how to stretch what little was left of my paycheck. Mark came in, grabbed a soda from the fridge, and looked over my shoulder. "Why are you stressing?" he said. "The landlord likes me. I'll talk to him if we're short." I stared at him. I had never been short on rent in my life, not once. It was the one thing I always handled responsibly. And now he was talking like he'd swoop in to fix a problem he caused. He didn't notice how tightly I was gripping the paper. Later that week, he took my car without asking and came back with the tank nearly empty, smelling like he'd been driving around all day. When I told him I needed it for work the next morning, he laughed. "You act like it's only your car. We live together, remember?" That sentence stuck with me. The entitlement in it. The way he said we live together, like it meant ownership, not partnership. I went to bed angry, but when I woke up, something inside me had cleared. The next morning, I opened my bank app at the break room table during my lunch shift. My balance was lower again. Another unauthorized withdrawal. This time, $40. Not enough to scream about, but enough to let me know he didn't care that I noticed. He didn't think I'd do anything, and a strange calm settled over me. This wasn't a rough patch, or a misunderstanding, or a phase. This was someone who saw my stability as a resource, not a shared life. Someone who abused the convenience of living with a person who actually paid their bills. That quiet realization, that cold, simple truth, was my breaking point. Not rage, not tears, just a steady, grounded clarity. He's using me, and he thinks I won't stop him. I folded my lunch bag, took a breath, and decided I was done pretending this was normal. I wasn't going to confront him, and I wasn't going to beg him to change. I was going to end this on my terms, and if he wanted to take advantage of me, fine. I'd let him think he still could. Because while he was busy draining me, I was finally ready to start paying attention. Once I stopped reacting to Mark, everything got easier. He kept taking advantage of me, but now I wasn't scrambling to fix it or soothe it. I was just watching. And the more I watched, the more predictable he became. First step, I quietly opened a new bank account at a small credit union 2 towns over. My manager helped me set up direct deposit without making a big deal. The next payday, the money went straight there. My old account stayed open with $20 in it, just enough to keep the card active. Predictably, Mark spent it within 48 hours. He never mentioned the missing paycheck, not once. He just assumed it was there, and when it wasn't, he shrugged it off like money simply evaporated. He didn't even ask. That told me everything. Second step, I started gathering every piece of evidence I'd need if he tried to cause trouble when I asked him to leave. Screenshots of bank withdrawals, photos of my nearly empty fridge, pictures of receipts for gas, groceries, cleaning supplies, everything I paid for. I even took photos of the piles of trash he left around and the borrowed items he'd never returned. My phone became a quiet archive of his habits. Third step, I stopped buying anything unnecessary. No more snacks, no more takeout, no more household items unless absolutely essential. If he wanted shampoo or detergent or new socks, he had to either pay for them himself or go without. He chose go without. The apartment slowly morphed into a minimalist space. Bare pantry, no extra toiletries, no junk drawer full of things he could quietly drain. It was the first time I'd seen how little he actually contributed. Fourth step, I made myself inconveniently busy, picking up extra shifts, volunteering to help with inventory, walking home instead of taking my car when I didn't need it. Anything to keep him from relying on me for rides or errands. If he wanted something, he had to figure it out himself. He hated it. One night, he asked why I hadn't gone grocery shopping like usual. I told him, "Money's tight. I'm cutting back." His face tightened, not with concern, but with irritation, like I'd failed to meet some obligation. A week later, he started dropping hints about needing a little help with his phone bill. I just shrugged and said, I can't. No explanation, no apology. His reaction was immediate. He got snappy, sulking, passive-aggressive comments about how people who care about each other support each other. But I stayed pleasant, calm, unbothered. He didn't realize how much power he lost the second I stopped letting his frustration affect me. Fifth step, the big one, I talked to my landlord, not about Mark specifically. Just a simple conversation. If I ever needed to end a rental agreement early because someone moved out, what would the process look like? He told me I didn't need both signatures, just mine, since I was the sole tenant on the lease. That was the moment I knew I'd already won. The final piece fell into place the day Mark crossed a line he didn't think was a big deal, but it was. I came home to find my car keys missing and a note saying he'd run an errand. When he came back hours later, he handed me my keys like nothing happened, but the fuel light was on and the back seat was covered in dirt from hauling something heavy. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He didn't even say thanks. He just asked what was for dinner. I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing. Not anger, not fear, not sadness. Just a clean, steady sense of resolve. He had no idea I'd already planned every step. He had no idea he was about to lose everything he'd been taking for granted. And the best part? He thought he was still in control. Mark didn't notice the shift, but the apartment felt different to me. Lighter, like I'd quietly opened a window he didn't know existed. I moved through my routines without rushing to fix anything he broke or clean anything he left behind. He kept creating small messes. I kept stepping over them. He kept waiting for me to restock the fridge. I kept letting the shelves stay empty. He grumbled a lot now. One night, he stood in the kitchen, staring at the near-bare pantry. "Why don't you ever get groceries anymore?" he asked, like it was my part-time job to feed him. I shrugged. "Money's tight." He made a frustrated noise. "You're being dramatic. You used to take care of this." "Not anymore," I said, simple and even. I think that was the first moment he felt something slipping. Over the next few days, he grew more irritable. His phone got shut off for non-payment. He blamed me. If you weren't hogging money, we wouldn't be dealing with this," he snapped. I didn't respond. I was done playing referee to his chaos. The moment to end things came on a Thursday morning. I left for work early and stopped by the landlord's office. I signed a simple form removing Mark's permission to reside in the unit. Since he wasn't on the lease, it took 5 minutes. The landlord nodded sympathetically. "He's not treating you well, is he?" "No," I said, "and I'm done." We picked a date, 3 days out, and the landlord agreed to be present when I broke the news. He even said he'd bring another staff member, just in case Mark got loud or refused to leave. They weren't kicking him out for behavior. They were enforcing the legal fact that he had zero right to be there. I walked to work feeling more free than I had in months. That night, when I got home, Mark was on the couch, irritated about the Wi-Fi being slow and the fridge being empty. He didn't look up when I walked in. He didn't ask about my day. He didn't notice the envelope in my hand. I set it on the coffee table. "We need to talk." He barely glanced at it. "About what now?" "You're moving out on Sunday." He froze. Then he laughed. "No, I'm not." "You are," I said calmly. "You're not on the lease. You've been taking money from me without permission. You don't contribute. You don't respect the space. The landlord knows, and he'll be here Sunday with someone else. You can pack or not pack, but you're leaving." His mouth opened like he was about to argue, but the words caught. He wasn't used to me speaking with certainty. He wasn't used to me not backing down. And he definitely wasn't used to the idea that someone else, someone with authority, was involved. "You can't just—" he started. "I already did." Something in his face flickered. For the first time, he looked unsettled. Not because of the breakup, but because his free ride was over. He tried guilt, then anger, then fake sadness. He tried twisting my words, bringing up old memories, even blaming his stress for everything. But none of it landed. Not anymore. I'd already stepped out of the role he built for me. Sunday came. The landlord and his assistant arrived. Mark tried to argue again, but the landlord cut him off with a firm, "You're not authorized to stay here. You need to leave today." It was over in 20 minutes. He walked out with 2 trash bags of clothes and a backpack. Everything else he'd scattered through my life, broken dishes, worn out shoes, old video games, stayed behind like shed skin. When the door closed behind him, the silence felt different. Not heavy, not tense, just mine. I spent the rest of the day cleaning, not angrily, not resentfully, but simply reclaiming the space. I found forgotten receipts he'd stuffed behind books and soda cans kicked under furniture. Each one reminded me how small he'd tried to make my world. But I'd gotten it back. The next morning, I brewed coffee in a quiet kitchen. No yelling TV, no dirty dishes, no dread curling in my stomach, just peace. The moral wasn't dramatic or poetic. It was simple. People show you who they are through the smallest things. And when someone slowly chips away at your stability, your confidence, your kindness, you don't wait for them to stop. You stop letting them, and you take your life back.